Welcome, my political friends of the interwebs. You are looking at a pic of the singer-songwriter Jackson Browne. A photo courtesy of the Associated Press. Anyway, reading a story by Caitlin McDevitt. Basically, the headline of the story was Jackson Browne cools on Obama, which I thought was kind of interesting. But when you read this story, I found it on the Drudge Report. When you read the story, it's kind of interesting because apparently 4 years ago, Jackson Browne had a meet and greet with, at that time, candidate Barack Obama. And he had to talk to him, and from all accounts, Jackson Browne is a greenie. He is an environmentalist, anti-nuclear, nut job. Nut job's what he is. And I guess they raised a lot of money 4 years ago for Obama. And in the process, Obama had promised Jackson Browne that he would not be a friend of nuclear at all. And which is exactly what Jackson Browne wanted to hear. And I'm sure not being a friend of coal was a given. but Jackson Browne wanted to make sure that the candidate, Obama, would be on board with his green agenda, anti-nuclear agenda. So, and by the way, for my younger viewers out there, Jackson Browne was big in like the late 70s, early to mid 80s. And he used to date and lived with, apparently, I think it was Daryl Hannah. I can't remember if it was Daryl Hannah, but it seems like it was Daryl Hannah. In the comment section, if any of you know whether it was Daryl Hannah that Jackson Browne was living with, let me know. And if I remember right, it seems like she accused him of kicking the shit out of her. I think he was like a very abusive person, from what I understand. Allegedly a very abusive person. I don't remember him ever getting arrested or anything, but maybe he did. I have no idea. Yeah, let me know if I'm right about that in the comment section. Did he or did he not allegedly kick the snot out of Daryl Hannah? Seems to me he did. But anyway, let me get back to the original point of this whole thing. I just wanted to shed some light to my younger viewers who Jackson Browne was. Google him. You spell his last name Browne. Actually, it's some pretty good music back then. In fact, I can't watch, whenever I hear, I can't remember the name of the song, but I think of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is, a classic. And I'm dating myself. Anyway, all right, bottom line, he's very disappointed because Obama's administration had okayed a permit for nuclear. And, kind of pissed off old Jackson. That wasn't what Jackson was in for. It wasn't what he spent all that money on. When I tell you that Jackson Browne had a meet and greet, he actually got to talk lengthily. Now, granted, at that time he was just a candidate, but he was still the Democratic nominee for president of the United States. When those Hollywood types, musicians and actors and whatnot, get together, it's like 10, 20, 30 grand just to show up to these events. So I'm sure that Jackson Browne had stroked a pretty fat check. And according to him, he did not get his money's worth. So here's the deal. Now, from what he says, he's still going to vote for Obama in November. Which, whatever. He says he's just not excited about it, and he is not going to do any fundraising or any of the usual BS. So, other than George Clooney, I'm not sure who Obama's got raising money for him. I really don't. And I just wonder, I really wonder how much money Obama's going to have in his little war chest. I mean, you remember that it wasn't that long ago when everybody was talking about Obama having $1 billion to spend on this re-election effort. I haven't heard those kind of numbers being thrown around in a long time. Maybe he still gets to $1 billion. I don't know. But I think it's going to be awfully hard for him. And what's going to be very interesting, too, is because over the next few months, he's going to have to be raising a lot of money, which is really going to take his eye off the ball with the economy and everything else going on in the world. That's going to be problematic, because if he's out there hanging out with George Clooney, trying to raise money for his re-election, and something goes down, like the stock market, people are going to look at that going, "What the hell?" You know, and here's the other thing. I mean, you know, you've got Obama, who's been literally railing from the very beginning of this year, railing against the wealthy. And lately, that seems to be the only people he's coddling up to. And now the truth is he needs their money, you know. So, but people are seeing it for what it is. They're watching a guy talk shit about the quote unquote 1%. And it seems like that's all he's hanging out with, you know? And people are like, wait a minute, this guy's a freaking hypocrite. How can you rail about the 1% and then go and accept all their money, you know? And that's the other thing, too. I think a lot of people like Jackson Browne are looking at the people that Obama has surrounded himself with, not just recently, but from the very beginning of his administration. You know, we're talking real money men, Goldman Sachs people. And, you know, I think the real idealists, not your Clooney's, because Clooney's clueless, but your real idealists, your hippie retreads, they're looking at that and they're thinking to themselves, wait a minute, that smells an awful lot like the administration that we got rid of. How is it that we voted for this hope and change guy, and when you look at his cabinet and you look at the people he surrounded himself with, and well, it pretty much looks like George Bush's cabinet. It looks like the people that George Bush surrounded himself with. So your idealists, your real believers. I'm not talking the pretenders. I'm not talking about people like George Clooney who just like to have a reason to wear a tux and hobnob with the most powerful man in the free world. You know, those guys are douchebags. You know, but I mean, I'm talking I give mad props to Jackson Browne. Not for, you know, domestic violence, but I give him mad props for being true to at least partially true to his beliefs. I mean, he's not going to go out of his way to raise money for Obama. Now, having said that, if he had any real balls, he would have flat out said, "Look, I got duped. I'm not voting for the guy again." You know, I mean, he can talk about, you know, it being the lesser of two evils. It's kind of funny when you listen to people like Jackson Browne talk about the lesser of two evils, and that's exactly the phrase he used. And he looks at Obama being the lesser of two evils. And when I look at the right side of the fence, they look at Mitt Romney as being the lesser of two evils. I do find that to be kind of interesting. So, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. But, you know, Jackson Browne, I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested to know whether or not he is an exception to the rule, and I don't think he is. I think there are an awful lot of your real Hollywood artists, the artist type, artistic, not the autistic types, but the artistic types, who really are disillusioned with Barack Obama. I think that they really thought that he was going to be special. I think they really thought that this was going to be something very different. And they thought 4 years ago that they were part of a movement. Well, it turned out 4 years later they realized that it was just one huge bowel movement that they were involved with, and it wasn't even pleasant. You know, I think the Democratic Party needs an enema. That's what I think. So, I mean, I don't know. You know, it's interesting. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Do you think that Jackson Browne is an exception to the rule? Or do you think that the majority of the Hollywood people really feel the way he does? They're disillusioned. They may vote for him, that they're not going to bust their humps trying to raise money for him. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Because I personally, truthfully, I think that here, let me put it this way. Jackson Browne is being upfront and honest. I think the majority of Hollywood feels exactly like he does, but they're just not willing to tell anybody. You know, I give Caitlin McDivitt all the credit in the world for getting this out of him. It was clearly a good interview, because, you know, I would say that a lot of the Hollywood elite, and that includes, of course, your musicians, your producers, your directors, your actors, the whole nine yards. I really think that most of them are very disillusioned. They are not happy. They may show up if George Clooney calls, because, you know, here's the way Hollywood works. If George Clooney calls and you want to get a call from him the next time, you better show up. You know, and George Clooney at the moment is extremely popular. He's on top of his game in Hollywood. He's an A-lister. Well, let me put it that way. If an A-lister calls you to raise money for Obama, you show up. That's what you do. You know, whether you believe in Obama or not, whether you're disillusioned or not, you show up because you want the A-lister calling you the next time. You know, and that's just the thing. Now, a B-lister, you're not so obligated to go. You know, so if the dude who played Carlton on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air calls you, you know, you pretty much pass on that. You know, that's just the way it is. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to keep you guys any longer than, oh my God, it's already almost 11 minutes. Good Lord. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to let this thing run the way I did, but you know how I am. I just get to rolling. Let me know in the comment section, do you like these longer vids, or do you want me to shorten these vids? You know, let me know. I mean, because I don't mind just talking to you guys, because I feel like I'm having a conversation with you guys. And I like that. I dig that. You know, but I think maybe some people are like, eh. You know, I want to start doing a blog, or not a blog, I'm sorry, a podcast where, you know, maybe I do like an hour-long podcast. I don't know if anybody's really interested in that. Once again, I love using this comment section. Let me know in the comment section. Is that something you'd like to have? Me doing an iPad? Listen to me. What is it? It's 4:31 a.m. I gotta get my ass in bed. Let me know if you're down with me doing a podcast, and if so, yeah, how long? You know, because I could go for hours. All right, I gotta go. Everybody have a good night, or I guess good morning. See ya.